Welcome back. Another edition of the OG podcast. I'm Indy Kalu, and the man sitting across from me needs no introduction, former Pro Bowler. You know what? As a guy who's never been a Pro Bowler, Mr. Wade Smith, are you former Pro Bowler or is it just Pro Bowler?
I think it's just that's a good question.
Yeah,
I think it works either way. You can be a former Pro Bowler, you can be a Pro Bowler. Either way, the funny thing is sometimes I've been at like little reading events and I might get introduced by a teacher, and they'll be like, "Hey, so what was it like, bowling?"
Wow.
Because they Pro Bowler, like, "Oh, you were a Pro Bowler." Like, no.
That's bad.
It's a Pro Bowl. But, teachers, education, they're not necessarily tied into the sports world like that.
But
so
you know what, a teacher
that's happened more than once. That's why I bring it up.
You know what they should do, though?
What's that?
Wiki. They should just look into, then when they see a 6'4", 6'5", now you've lost a whole lot of weight, so you don't look like an offensive lineman anymore.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I don't believe in stereotypes, but
yeah.
Ain't no 6'4", 6'5" brothers bowling.
That is a fact. I've yet to see a guy that could cross over from being the football guy to the bowling guy. I've never seen that. I know there's a lot of football players that can bowl very well,
yes,
but I've never seen guys that decided that's what I want to do.
It's funny that, and we'll get on topic, and there really is no on topic when it's OG podcast. It's just some old former players who chop it up right here, and you definitely want to stay tuned. But it's funny you bring that up, because what do we see our colleagues go into? Boxing, MMA, and like you said, because I'll never forget Coach Kubiak, who to this day I think is just one of the best people in the NFL.
No question.
He would take us bowling during training camp as like a break, and there were guys I'm like, man, like he can bowl for real. I'm surprised guys don't. We haven't seen any guys really try to pursue bowling after football.
Yeah, you see guys going to golf, like you said, boxing, mixed martial arts, different things like that. But, bowling, I've never really seen somebody try to do it seriously. And I think guys could, honestly.
I think so.
I think they could. Because like I said, there's some talented guys. Bowling is one of those things where it's a repetition thing. I could kind of speak intelligently about it, because when I grew up, from age, I think 7 or 8, maybe even younger than that, all the way until middle school, that's what I did. I bowled. I didn't play Pop Warner football. I didn't do all of that stuff. I bowled. And I had to convince my mom to let me play football in the 7th grade, and I had to give up bowling. And I probably could have, they give out scholarships for bowling these days. I probably could have went to school and got a scholarship for bowling, because I was really good at it, state tournaments, all the type stuff. But, yeah, man, I could definitely see if guys wanted to do that, like they say, I'm retired, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna start bowling, and like get serious about it the same way they do about golf and some of these other stuff. I think guys could do it.
Well, that's you. So did you ever think about it?
Well, the difference is that if you look at my hands, you look at this is the hand that you bowl with, the right hand, my fingers. I've tried to bowl post career, during the career and post career, and it ain't the same for a lot of reasons. Back, knees, but my fingers fitting them in the ball, this pinky, it's awkward as hell. Same thing with shooting a basketball. My disabled fingers preclude me from trying to do something like that.
For obviously they can't see your hands, but you
I think there's a
have
camera right here. I don't know if this is live or not, but
okay. Well, if you can, cool. But it's also going to be on the radio station, so they won't see it. But he definitely has the stereotypical lineman hands. I don't know whose are worse, yours or Robert Smith's.
I haven't seen Robert's, but offensive linemen and defensive linemen, and sometimes receivers too, really have a tough time of it when it comes to the health of their fingers during and post career. They look terrible.
I was lucky because after 12 years, and I had some broken fingers. I actually had a situation. We were playing against the Dallas Cowboys, and I went for a tackle, landed awkwardly, and my pinky finger was pointing east-west instead of north-south. And I'll never forget. It didn't hurt. But when I saw it, I was freaking out.
Did you pull it back in?
Well, my cornerback. So I saw it. I was like, oh, my God. Because I even had a glove on. So my whole glove.
That's how you know.
And I was like, I didn't scream. I don't want to sound like a punk on air. But I was kind of like, what the heck is this? And Lito Shepard, our cornerback, said, man, quit being a punk. And in the huddle, just grabbed my finger and popped it back in.
Yeah.
And we just acted like there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. So that finger's a little jacked up, but you and Robert, y'all's fingers literally are just going in directions it's not supposed to go. When I saw you today, I usually give you the fist pump because I'm like, he can't shake hands with that hand. Does it hurt?
He was trying to protect my handicap.
Yeah, I'm trying to protect you.
I appreciate that.
Like, it looks like it hurts.
It does hurt, but it doesn't hurt in the way that you would think. It's more of like arthritic hurt. You know, it's not like if you touch it, it's going to hurt worse type deal. Actually, sometimes when if it's like, you know how like when you want to pop a knuckle and when you pop it, it releases. It's that thing. Like but this is like at all times you feel like you want to pull it and pop it because it doesn't straighten out.
All right, you talked about things releasing. At some point, we're going to get the Houston Texans schedule for this upcoming season. They're making a big deal about it, regardless of what station you listen to, sports talk station right here in H-Town, but you need to leave it right here at all times. People are just getting hype about it. As a player, what was your process? What was your routine when you were a player and the schedule came out?
Well, the first thing you looking for the primetime games. You're looking for how many times you're going to be on national TV to where everybody that you know can see you play. So that's the Monday night games. It's the Thursday night games. That's maybe you're on a Thanksgiving game. You're looking for those things first. You're looking for the bye week second. And the bye week, you hope that it's somewhere in the middle. You hope it's not somewhere either early in the season or really late in the season. Just because of, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint when you're talking about an NFL season. And if you can get that bye week somewhere in the middle of the season, now you can kind of break the season up into quarters, into halves, and kind of pace yourself, quote unquote, to make it through and perform at your highest level for the entire season. But those are the first two things that come to my head. Is like, all right, what games are we playing on prime time? And then like, who are we playing that might be somebody that is a rival? Is it an opportunity for a get-back game? Is there maybe, you know, for example, we lost to the Ravens in the 2011 playoffs road game. Felt like we played better than them. When the schedule was coming out in 2012 and you knew that was one of the opponents, you wanted to find out when and where you were going to play them. And fortunately for us, that next year, 2012, we blew them out at home, and that was a fun little, you know, get back game. But you look for opportunities like that too, and especially if you moved around to different teams, you look for when is the team that I used to play for, when are they on the schedule?
You know, it's funny, and this is why it's cool to have. You know, a lot of times people think all former players think alike and we're in agreement on everything. There are some things that you were saying, and I was like, okay, that's the difference of a guy who played in multiple Pro Bowls versus a guy like me who's a role player. Because when I saw the schedule, especially early in my career when I was single, I looked at the schedule like, oh, okay, I get to highlight Tamika. We play Atlanta. we going to ATL, so I'm going to let Tamika know that we coming to ATL.
Wow.
Then I'll be like, okay, when am I going to get to play against my boy Larry Izzo? You know, because at Rice, there was only 3 of us in the NFL at the time. So we playing Miami.
That's
so
hilarious. You're
over here looking at, we're going to get back at this team, and, you know, this is a prime time. Yeah, so.
Hey, man, I got married my rookie year on a Tuesday, bro. So it was none of that, like, this chick in that city and all that type of stuff. That was the single, and that makes sense for the single guys. But me, I was locked down early on.
Well, good for you. You were focused early on because, like I said, that's the difference between the Pro Bowlers and us guys who were just surviving. But no, all jokes aside, once you do look at the primetime games, the one thing I never, and again, I don't want people to think that all players think alike because I'm curious to get your take on this. I never looked at the schedule as easy win, easy win. Now, I looked at the schedule and right, wrong, or indifferent, especially when I was playing in Philadelphia. You go into it thinking we're going 16-0 because I never looked at it like, oh, this team's going to beat us. That team, we're not going to beat, or we can beat this one. But I to this day, when I hear, oh, this team has an easy schedule, it's hard for me to nod my head and agree with that. I want to get your take. And I get it, the win-loss from the previous year, but it's hard for me to say that any NFL team has an easy schedule. I'm curious what your take is on that.
I think if you have any type of seasoning, any type of wherewithal, you understand that if you approach it as if this is an easy win, that's when you're going to lose. And if you played in the league for any period of time, if you pay attention at all, if you kind of read the tea leaves and catch the vibes when you're in the locker room, and what you're getting from coaches and your teammates is like, hey, listen, you cannot take anybody for granted because you will get beat. Anybody can beat anybody in this league any given Sunday. That is a real mentality. At the same time, you can look at the schedule and say, we should beat this team. We should beat that team. We're going to beat that team. Or, you can look at it and say, hey, we do what we need to do. Certain people might not be playing in the fourth quarter against this team.
Right.
Some things like that. But there's also, you look at the schedule and you say, there's certain teams where you say, all right, we're going to have our mind right, because this is a big game right here. We're going to have to play our best game, or we're going to have to play our A game to beat a team like that. Stuff like that. But it's never a thought process of like, that's going to be an easy win, because if you have that thought process, if you have that mentality, you will get beat.
Okay, but what about, and you're 100% correct there. Like, I think every player will agree on that. But what about as an analyst, as a guy that watches, analyzes, and talks about the games on air? Do you now look at schedules and say that's an easy schedule?
So I'll look at it like this. I'll break them up into quarters, and say, and it used to be quarters, now 17 games, but it used to be break them up into quarters and say, looking at these 4 teams, they better win 3 out of 4. These next 4, they got to split these 2. Gotcha. These next 4, they should go on a run here, because they got. But you also think of it of like, if you're analyzing it, you're looking at it. So, okay, when you played, what were some of the things that were the pitfalls that happened? Like, you noticed, like the vibe was kind of off this week because of this reason, because of the team that you was playing against might have been a lesser opponent. Maybe guys weren't taking it as seriously as they should have, or this is coming off of a bye week, and so hey, maybe it's an opponent that we otherwise might struggle with because we're coming off a bye week. I think we might be able to do something with them because they're coming off of a tough game and we're fresh. And so if you look at it with that mentality as an analyst of like, okay, these are some of the things that you experienced as a player. Now you can kind of factor that in of what you're going to see when you're looking at the schedule, and you say, okay, yeah, I believe they'll win 3 out of 4 here, or they could go on a run here. This is going to be a tough 4-week patch right here. If you split this, you did a good job. Mm-hmm. There's certain, you can look at it that way because you don't have a visceral vested interest in it, because like you said, as a player, whoever you line up against, you expect to beat them. Right. I don't care who you are. Right. Like, you put the ball down, let's go. Mm-hmm. That's the mentality. And so it's like you have to be delusional to play the game at a high level.
Thank you.
You have to be able to buy in and believe that whatever they on paper, they might be better on paper, but we have a game plan this week that this is how we're going to beat them this week. And every week you have to be able to be convinced. And sometimes when you look at it from the outside looking, you say, you got to be delusional if you thought that y'all was going to win that game. But that is a fact of the matter. That's how it happens, because you don't accidentally beat anybody. You got to believe that you're going to do it, and then now you got to go out and execute and make it happen.
I've told this story before, but when you said you have to be delusional to play this game, mm-hmm. and to make it to the NFL, you have to be delusional. I think back when I was at Rice, mm-hmm. and we were opening up against Ohio State. That was our first game. Wow. So the whole summer, after every sprint, we break down, beat Ohio State. It got to the point where Wade Smith could not come back then and convince me that we weren't going to beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
And now, like, I laugh when I think about it and I tell the story. Just take a guess at what the score was.
Where was the game at?
At Ohio State.
I'm going to say 49-14.
I wish.
It wasn't that close?
70-7.
Oh, okay.
and I was I had the nerve, the gall, the audacity to be shocked during the game. Like, what is going on here? And now when I look back and I see that Orlando Pace was on that line. Corey Stringer, may his soul rest in peace, was on that line.
Wow.
Eddie George was a third-string running back on that line. On that team.
Yeah.
I was just but at the time, you could not convince me that we weren't going to beat it. So you're right. You have to be delusional to play this game to get to that point. You also discussed a little bit about the bye week before we start talking about the home and away games.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, handling bye weeks? There's so many different ways. I'm sure you've had some coaches where they dang near give you 7 days off.
Yeah.
And then you have other coaches where you're a little upset because they only give you 2 days 2 days off. Like, how do you like approaching the bye week?
So I personally like it to where you give, and you know, it depends on what stage of your career you're in. Early on in your career, I felt like I liked the getting the reps and getting the work in and staying locked in and not getting that rest on the body. As you get older, you want that rest. But there's a combination of factors that you bring in. It's like, okay, what type of team do we have here? Do we have a veteran team that goes about their business, doesn't need to be micromanaged? Are pros? Like my time here in Houston, like we didn't put a lot of emphasis on the bye week of beating each other up, right? But we had a team that was set up to where you didn't need that. That wasn't that we didn't, and so it made sense. I was on other teams, like when I was in with the Jets, the bye week. At times, like I felt like we needed it, and at the same time, we weren't going to get that leeway because of the philosophy of the head coaches. We're going to grind you. We're going to grind you, and that's how we're going to beat our opponents, because we're going to overcome that grind, and that's how we're going to be able to be successful on Sundays. And so I didn't really, even though I was younger then, I didn't particularly like it because I felt like we were being micromanaged. Even though when you look back on it, you kind of felt like in some respects we needed that, but you just didn't really like it because it was like, what are we trying to prove right here? I'm very much a person of like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to beat this opponent. This is our opponent. We beat each other up in training camp, for that month and a half prior to the season. Once we're in season, now our teammates are our teammates. I'm not trying to beat up on my brother anymore. Right. I'm trying to whoop them.
Right.
And so iron sharpens iron. You do things to get yourself prepared to beat somebody else, but I'm not trying to, because I guess my mentality was when I was playing is like they were the enemy. Like once the whistle blew, there's nothing about you that I like. There's times, throughout that you can kind of acknowledge, and respect your opponent, that thing like that. But it's almost like you have to breed like almost a hatred towards your opponent in order for you to perform at the highest of levels and be willing to do what's necessary to be successful more times than not. And so, that I didn't really like to have to take it there during a bye week, but there were times throughout my career where that was the case. Right. And it was like, if you didn't take it there, then you were going to get beat. So I didn't like having to go to that place with my brothers. That, you know what I mean? That mentality of having to go to that place, I didn't like having to go to that place with my brothers. In training camp, we're all trying to earn jobs and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, that's different. But once the season starts, hey, we in it. And so it's us against everybody else. And so, that's kind of how I looked at the bye week. I definitely enjoyed my time more when I was here in Houston because Gary Kubiak, he was a guy that he trusted guys and he expected guys to do their job and not have to be micromanaged to do it. And if guys didn't do their job, they weren't around, and everybody understood that. Right. And so, it's a respect for, like, we're all grown men here. You don't have to kind of look over my shoulder to make sure I'm doing my work. Everything about me, my character as a human being and as a competitor is I'm going to do what I need to do and then some, because we want to be great. Right. You see what I'm saying? And so I was in certain places where that wasn't necessarily the case.
Now, were you on the 12-4 team here in Houston?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so 11. Well, I guess we were 12-4. In 12 we were 12-4, and then in 11 we were 10-6, and then we won a playoff game and lost a playoff game. Right. So I guess we ended up being 11-7. That year, yeah. So but the first year I was here, we were 6-10. Right. But that was the year that, like, Arian led the league in rushing. Our offense was amazing. I think we might have had if we weren't first or second, we were top 5 offense in the league. That was the year where, like, week 1 we ran for 230 something with Arian, and then the next week Shive threw for 527.
That's
that
when
was
the
the type
defense was historically bad, right?
It was really bad. And we lost a bunch of games, like last-second games, like fluke games. Like we lost 5 games, I think, by like on the last play of the game or the last possession because we couldn't stop anybody. Like that was a rough year from that regard. But we knew we were good. Like offensively, we were a terror. Like we ran through a lot of people. That was the year we started off 4-2. D'Amico gets hurt against Kansas City, and then after that, our defense just shot to hell. We just weren't the same team anymore because D'Amico, I think he
tore his Achilles.
Or something. He was out for the rest of that year. And so defensively, like if you look at the first 6 games of that year, our defense was good enough for us to be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
After he got hurt, we weren't anymore, and it was bad. And so you come into the team meeting room, and Coobs is like, "Hey man, y'all don't understand." Talking to the offense, not the team meeting room, the offensive meeting room.
Right.
You understand what we got going on here. We're going to need to be even better. And mind you, at the time, we're, got the leading rusher in the league. You got Dre, you got OD, you got Schaub, like I said, throwing for thousands of yards. But it was just, hey, we were struggling on the other side of the ball. So, like I said, that team was a veteran team. It was a team that had been in the system for a long time. And so you didn't need to beat each other up, per se, on a bye week. It was like, let's get ourselves physically and mentally refreshed so that we can go forward for the rest of this year.
Were there whispers on the offensive side like, hey, man, they need to pick it up on the defense? Or did everybody just know it so you didn't really have to say it?
Yeah, it was almost to the how do I want to put this? It starts off as anger of like, come on, y'all do your job, to like almost, I don't want to say pity, but it was just like, hey, if it's your little brother or somebody like that and they just ain't got it, you just like, you're gonna take one. I got your back. I'm gonna look out for you, type of deal, because you just didn't have expectations for them to do that well, and you could kind of feel it in training camp. It's like offensively, we're doing like this is like a little easy, but it's like, okay, maybe it's not that it's easy because they're not good. It's because we're just really damn good as an offense. That's what it felt like that in training camp that year. And then you move forward as the season goes on, and like I said, the first 6 games we start off 4-2. Defense was doing good enough to win games, but like I said, once D'Amico got hurt, defensively we weren't the same. We started losing too many guys, and so we we couldn't compete at that level on the offense. I mean, on the defense side of the ball.
The offensive side, because now it's coming back to me. Obviously, I was retired at that point, and just watching, the offense was special. Like, the offense was special. Do you see any similarities in what the Texans have today with that offense, that 3-year run on the offensive side of the ball?
Listen, on paper, skill position-wise, this is the best collection of players that this organization has put together.
Since that time?
Since, period.
No, I disagree.
Period.
And you played on that side. That offensive line y'all had.
I said skill position-wise.
Oh, my bad.
I said skill position-wise.
Okay, gotcha.
Skill position-wise. Offensive line, no. They ain't there yet.
I don't even know if I'm ready to.
Bro.
Andre, OD, Jacoby Jones, Kevin Walter, Arian Foster, Ben Tate as a backup. And I know I said Kevin Walter, Jacoby Jones. Those are your backups.
Listen.
I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet.
C.J. Stroud.
Yes.
First and foremost, C.J. Stroud, hands down, is just one of the top, 3-4 quarterbacks in the league.
Agree,
right?
100%.
The accuracy, mind you, they're running the same offense now that we ran then.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the same stuff.
Okay.
Same stuff. I'm watching games, calling the plays out. You already know what it is.
Okay.
So you add Stephon Diggs to what you already had with Collins and Tank. Mind you, there's Dre is Dre.
Right.
But the matchup problems that Tank Dell causes for teams, the run after catch that Nico has against guys, then you add Stephon Diggs, then you add Joe Mixon, then you already had Schultz at tight end position. Like, skill position wise, because I think, and it's nothing against my brothers,
right.
but the drop off between Dre and the next receiver it's a big drop off. So now teams can like scheme Dre. You can't scheme our offense now. You can't scheme it. You want to double this guy, you're gonna get torched by that guy. You want to try to roll your coverage this way, you get torched by this guy. Mind you, you have a quarterback that is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, and he plays with a swagger that most guys don't have, especially at a young age. So for those reasons, like I said, skill position wise, I think that this group is the best collection of guys that they put together.
I will say this. I actually forgot about when I was making my argument. I wasn't thinking of the additions that we
yeah.
Because when you said Stephon Diggs, in my mind I was like, oh crap, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
Then you said Joe Mixon. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
It's gonna be special
because Mixon. I don't say Mixon is like Arian, but he's not far behind Arian.
Right.
Like, and so I'm not gonna take Diggs over Dre, but you got the collection of Diggs, Collins, Dale.
Yes.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Then they just signed this kid that's coming from the Rams. I can't pronounce his last name, the receiver from the Rams. SK something. I can't pronounce it right. I'll learn it eventually. But they line it, and they run the same offense out there too with the Rams. When we get in 11 personnel, when they get in 21 personnel, it's not 21 because they have that guy that's a receiver playing fullback spot. Lead blocking. So imagine that you're running.
Keep in mind, for those listening, 21 personnel, 2 running backs, 1 tight end.
Right.
So you're saying he's going to line up at fullback?
Yeah, that's what he was doing out there with the Rams, lining up at fullback and then running play action off of that. So instead of you having running a play, because mind you, I've watched the tape. I watched him lead block and do a good job at it. Okay. Right. He's like 6'3", 215, something like that. One of those guys that are typical receivers that block in this offense. And this particular offense, you have to be able to block. You got to be physical. You got to go get people, right? So you got that guy. You put him at fullback, and you fake a lead draw. You fake 19 weak, and then you're running, all kind of routes with these receivers. Mind you, all those receivers that I named earlier, they're out there in routes, and you got a linebacker matched up with the receiver that is a legit receiver. Yeah. From the fullback spot. Good luck stopping that. So, yeah, like I said, I think skill position-wise, it's the best collection of talent that this organization has put together. They got to go out there and do it. But like I said, on paper, person for person, and then thinking about the possibilities, it's scary. It's scary. So I'm excited about this year. I'm excited about this schedule. I'll have another hot take right here, and I'm not a hot take guy, but this is the best schedule on paper that I've seen in the history of the franchise, where you're saying we're good and they're good, and these games are likely going to be on prime time. You got the Cowboy game. Like, imagine the Cowboy game being on Thanksgiving. Yeah. Just imagine that. Yeah. Imagine if the league gets that part right. Or think about the home games. You got the Ravens at home. You got the Bills at home. You got the Dolphins at home. You got the Lions at home. All 4 of those teams' offenses are amazing offenses, right? But you got an amazing offense. That's fireworks. That's big plays. That's explosive plays. Like, must-see TV. Like, from a fan perspective.
Those are all at home?
Those are all home games. I didn't even get into the division games. Those are all home games. And I didn't mention the Bears game. The Bears offense is going to be nice next year, too. If how quickly they'll put it together. Right. But they got Keenan Allen from the Chargers is there now. They got DJ Moore that's there now. And then they got Caleb Williams. And then they got another receiver. I can't think of his name right now. They drafted the kid from Washington. Rome.
The Nigerian, half Nigerian.
Yeah.
Ozune from Washington.
Yeah. So they got that's their receiver. So if you're a fan, you got to be like, man, listen, it's going to be a hot ticket. It ain't. People are going to be, they like.
That's strong.
That is amazingly strong.
Go through that home. We don't know the dates yet and the time, but just go through that home schedule.
You got the Ravens at home. So that's Lamar Jackson.
They've never beaten Lamar Jackson.
They got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Ooh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Strap up. Yes. Strap up. It's gonna be one of them ones.
Yes.
Then you got Buffalo Bills.
Josh Allen.
So you got Josh Allen.
That's going to be strong.
Right?
Josh Allen going against a receiver who supposedly wasn't happy there, so he's going to have try to prove something. So
Yeah.
that's strong. Okay.
Then you got the Dolphins.
So
you got Tyreek Hill,
who I think is the most explosive player in the game right
Jalen
now.
Waddle comes home,
Ooh,
Episcopal kid. Think about that. There's a lot of storylines. If you're Detroit Lions, you got Jared Goff,
the huge extension, 4-year, $212 million.
What's the receiver out there?
If you didn't ask,
Amon-Ra.
Yes.
Amon-Ra. That dude is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Their offense is nice. Both of their running backs, Montgomery and Gibbs. Those are all of these offenses.
Aaron Glenn on the coaching staff.
Yeah. There's a lot of juice there, as it said. And then you got your division games. Of course, you got the Colts, the Jags, and the Titans, and we don't like them. Right. So those, there is not a home game where you say I can skip that game.
Right.
Nah, if you got a ticket, you're going to the game.
Yes.
All of these games are must-see TV. So you look at that, and then you talk about the road opponents. You got the Cowboys in Dallas.
You should have said that last. That's huge.
That's a huge game.
That's huge.
You're getting to go to Lambeau Field again.
Mm-hmm.
Got the Packers on the road. You got the Vikings. Got a new quarterback. I guess J.J. McCarthy's going to start, I would think. But you got the Vikings on. You got the Chiefs on the road. That's always a big deal.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champions.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 3 out of the last 5 years or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Then you got the Jets on the road, and then you got the Patriots on the road. There's not a game on the schedule. When I look at the schedule, I say, juice-wise, the least interesting games are division games.
Yeah.
There is not a slouch non-division game on the schedule.
Maybe the Jets. Because aren't they, quote-unquote, rebuilding?
I'm not talking about as far as...
You don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not talking about as far as the ability of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of the juice of what their offense should be good. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy, their offense should be good. They got a damn good running back in Breece Hall.
Okay.
They got good receivers. The kid that's from Ohio State, I can't think of his name right now. Garrett Wilson, I think is his name.
Mm-hmm.
They're all all of these games should be exciting to watch. You're going to have to see. The Texans defense are going to have their work cut out for them this year. They got a lot of goons on the roster that they got to go against. So I'm excited for it. When the schedule come out, we got in the next 24 hours or so when it comes out, it's going to be exciting to see. And then you got to think about it. This is a year with all the excitement behind the schedule. Excuse me, not the schedule release, but the new uniforms, the rebrand of the organization. Thinking about when are they going to wear the H-Town blue jerseys? What night game?
What game should they?
It's got to be a night game, no question about it. Primetime game.
So you don't care about the opponent; it's more the timing.
I think the opponent. I think the opponent can play into it, but let's say that they play the Titans, and neither one of those games are primetime game. I'm not going to use that jersey against them just because it's them.
I got you.
You got to play that game at night. The H-Town blue at night. Drop the lights.
The whole world.
To see.
Yeah.
Put the H on the at midfield, bro. That. Then you got the all red jerseys. Those games. Those got to be nighttime, primetime games, and I think the Texans are going to have multiple opportunities to do that. You're going to have. I'm gonna put my bid on the table. I'm going to say at least 4 primetime games. At least 4. At least 4. I'm counting Thanksgiving game. If they have that to me, I count that as a primetime game, even though it's at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Now, you said if the NFL gets it right and puts the Texans taking on the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, I want to see that. You want to see that.
Yeah.
You and I both grew up in Texas.
No question.
But you're also got an entrepreneurial mindset. Is that what America wants to see? Roger Goodell has to make decisions on globally.
C.J. Stroud versus Dak Prescott. They want to see that.
Okay.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Remember, that's the.
I can't think of another better.
Excuse me, that's not 11 o'clock. The Cowboys always plays at 3 o'clock. That's a 3 o'clock game. Detroit plays at 11, and then the Cowboys plays at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock on a Thursday, Thanksgiving, Texans versus the Cowboys. To me, that'll be a great look. You can't lose there. And I haven't looked at the Cowboys schedule to see who else would they put. The Cowboys don't always play great opponents on Thanksgiving. I think their biggest thing is like it's the Cowboys, so it doesn't necessarily matter who you match up with the Cowboys. It's the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Everybody's going to watch that anyway. But when you talk about the competitiveness of the game, Thanksgiving, Texas football, and everything that it means, it just makes a lot of sense to me that that's where you put that game.
As a player, would you rather play on Thanksgiving or rather not?
You know what? Every time we played on Thanksgiving, I think I'm undefeated on Thanksgiving, so I definitely would want to play on Thanksgiving. I mean, I got not my first game ball, but my second game ball was against the Cowboys, my rookie year for the Dolphins. Blew them out. My grandma got mad at me, and she didn't make me a plate for Thanksgiving that year.
She's a Cowboy fan?
Huge, the biggest. Like, to this day.
And
she's 90 years old now.
For that blowout.
Yeah, she was upset with me for a few days. Like, y'all didn't have to come beat my team. Like, we beat them like 40-21.
Woo.
And the 21 was like a late touchdown. So, but then we played Detroit on Thanksgiving in 2012. That was probably the second most painful game that I played in my career, because we played the Jaguars the week before that, or that's the Sunday before that overtime game. We won it, but I broke my ribs that game. So then this is 3.5 days later at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're playing against Detroit with the flak jacket on. That was a painful game. We won it, but it wasn't fun. But I would definitely say I would rather play, if I had an opportunity to play on Thanksgiving, let's play on Thanksgiving, because everybody's watching. You're going to get those extra days off around Thanksgiving that other guys aren't going to get. I enjoyed my Thanksgiving experiences when I played in the league.
You talked about Arian Foster, and I remember he was very vocal against Thursday night games.
Yeah.
I personally enjoyed them, and that's why I like to say, just because we're all players, it doesn't mean we think the same. The reason I enjoyed it, I was lucky enough to have coaches. If you had a Thursday game, you just don't practice that week. Yeah. But I get his argument, especially being a running back, which is the most violent position on the football field, and saying that that's not enough time to recover. What was your take on Thursday games?
That was the biggest thing, just having enough time to recover. Because the way the NFL week works is like you play on Sunday, Monday you're coming down from your Toradol high, so you're starting to get the soreness. Tuesday is the most painful day of the week.
Yep.
Wednesday, you're starting to work through the soreness. Thursday, you're starting to feel like a human being again. Friday, you're feeling fast and ready to go. By the time you get to Sunday, hey, let's go. I'm ready to do this again. And then you repeat the process. Well, if you're playing on Thursday, even though you're not doing anything on that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, your body is still, you're just now starting to feel like a human being again on Thursday. And guess what? I got to go out there and whoop ND for 4 hours. Like, that ain't an easy task at all. And so I've never been a fan of the Thursday night game. It's just something that you have to do. It's part of the deal. But yeah, your body just does not feel, and since we've played, they've come up with all different things to try to help with that and help with the recovery. But you just never felt it. Like, it took you almost a quarter to like start feeling like you're supposed to feel in the middle of a game.
See, here's where I disagree, because I was lucky enough to play in some Thursday night games as well. And again, let's think about the regular week.
Yeah,
Sunday to Sunday, just like everything you said. Monday. And again, depending on what type of season you're having and who your coach is, some coaches make you do that run, the lift to get the soreness out. The Toradol's still there. Tuesday, you feel it. For those listening, Tuesday's typically the off day for the National Football League players. Wednesday, you have a hard practice. Wednesday and Thursday were usually the grinded out practices. And then Friday, you have basically a walkthrough, a jog through. Saturday you travel, Sunday you play. So the reason I enjoyed Thursday games, again, because I had smart coaches. We literally never put the pads on except for the helmets. Maybe a walkthrough on Tuesday, and that's it. So
yeah,
because I know practice is needed.
Yeah.
But to me, practice was always a grind. I just love to play. So if you tell me I get to play in a game on Sunday and then I don't have to do anything and play a game on Thursday, I'll sign up for that every day of the week.
I feel like you're speaking very much so from a defensive lineman's perspective, because defensive lineman, you guys rotate in and out. you mentioned Arian to start this conversation. Like Arian got beat up, man.
Yeah.
Like Arian, that is very physically taxing. I remember after every game, like you have a great game. You got 26 carries for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you're not smiling in the locker room.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're done. I can, it's a grind. And as an offensive lineman, hey, it's like you're excited you got the win, but it was a grind. We just went to war. We had a full-out battle for 70 plays. So if you had a good day at the office, you might be playing 80 plays. Yeah. Whereas, for you guys, if you have a good day at the office, you might have played 40 plays, and you might have only had to play, 29 out of those 40 plays, right. Or 50. Let's say you might have played a total of 40 plays if it was a good day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I think that kind of plays into your thought process of a Thursday night versus an offensive guy. Yeah,
and I just tap my helmet if somebody comes in.
Right, come get me.
Or y'all don't. Offensive linemen don't rotate.
No, it's frowned upon. That's like one of those unwritten rules. Like you don't come out the game.
Okay. I can see, and again, different position. You have different thoughts on it. So I did want to get your take on that. All right. So we obviously. With the Hall of Fame game, there's going to be a longer training camp. Now, I'm older than you. I retired in 2008. You retired when?
My last season was the 2014 season.
So and when was your first season?
2003.
That's right. So you've actually you can speak on this a little better than I can, because in 2003 they were still having what I call real training.
Oh yeah, that was
camps.
a real training camp.
And then you kind of
pad.
Yes.
Half pad. Pad, half pads. You had to wait to the end of the week to get like what do they call it? The
shell.
The shells. The shimmels, whatever you call them. The softies.
The skeleton. So,
the skellies. Yeah.
Some people call shell shoulder pads on and shorts on.
Right.
But then they also call those little foam deals shell. So just
you only put the foams on once a week in training camp. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Like when I was with the Dolphins my rookie year, it was full pads, and then it was full pads, half pads, and then repeat the cycle until you got to the last day of the week, and then you maybe a shells or a soft whatever shell, special teams practice or something like that. It was a real training camp, and even before then they were doing 3-a-days back in the day. So
before then was my era. 97 was my rookie year.
Yeah,
and in Philly, Coach Andy Reid, the best coach in football right now, and I'll keep saying that. But I truly believe his goal for the start of training camp was to try to weed somebody out. Yeah. You might be thinking, it's the NFL, no one's going to quit. Every year, I was 6 years with Andy Reid. Every year when we had training camp, at least one person quit.
Yeah.
And this isn't college, this isn't high school. And there were times where it was like, that guy was going to make the team. Like, he's walking away from – a 6-digit salary because training camp was so tough. And I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate, but I don't think there was any regulation like they have now on how long you can be on the field.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it.
It
didn't feel like it for sure. It didn't like I said today. There's no such thing as a real 2-a-day.
Right.
It's like you can practice full pads in the morning, but in the afternoon it's a walkthrough. It's like a legit walkthrough.
Yes.
Whereas it was full pads in the morning, full pads in the afternoon or evening. Then the next day you did a full padded practice, and then you might have a walkthrough. But the walkthrough it would be like a special teams walkthrough. That was like, and then you repeat the process. But let's say if you have 40 practice opportunities in training camp, you're gonna be in full pads probably 33 of those opportunities.
Yep.
Like it was just different. It's just a different game than what it is now. It's smart for your physical. Yeah. It's smart, but at the same time, I wonder how that is translating to the types and the amount of injuries that have come up as far as like
pulled hamstring.
Yeah, like soft tissue stuff. I feel like it wasn't. And maybe that's a combination of guys that are being so much like that are getting bigger and faster, and it's like the body can only do and move a certain amount of speed at one time. But yeah, man, it was definitely a more physically taxing. It's got me thinking about this whole debate that's been going on about NBA players playing in the NFL and vice versa. And it's like, bro, like y'all don't understand. Like I watched the Mavericks play Oklahoma City last night, and just the amount of whining and complaining and like they're playing that was what's considered a very physical brand of basketball. More like they were likening it back to the 90s style of basketball. And I'm like, the amount of complaining and whining and like mentally, I just don't see those guys. They'd have to change their mindset. It's not about being an athlete. You have to change your mindset to play for pennies during training camp because you're not getting paid your salary. And it's the most physically demanding and taxing thing that you'll ever go through. And it's Groundhog's Day, and it's each and every day, and you're trying to take someone's job, and someone's trying to take your job. Mentally, I just don't see NBA guys being willing or able to do that.
This is why I love and hate doing shows with you. You literally took everything that I was thinking and said it better than I could say it because I was having this discussion with my son, and I think he was trying to troll me because he was all, I agree with Austin Rivers. NBA players could play in the NFL. And I'm like, you know what? They could be just as fast. Yeah. They could be just as athletic. Yeah. Some of them might even be more athletic. Yeah. But it's the training camp and the grind of football that I don't know if these guys can do it. And just because, people don't realize when they have those type of debates, because a name that kept being thrown out there, and he's a great athlete, was, Russell Westbrook. He could do it. He can do it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe he can. What position you going to put him at?
Yeah, he's 6'4", right?
Yeah, 6'4". So they're like, he'll be a big receiver. I'm like, is he a 4'5" guy? Is he a 4'4" guy? I know he looks fast on the court. And again, he might be. One thing we tend to forget also when we try to say how easy it is, and I'm throwing the quotes in the air for the people listening, how easy it is to play in the NFL. There's a lot of guys who are 6'4", run a 4.3, could bench 225, rep it out 20 times, and have a 38-inch vertical. And you know what they're not doing?
Playing football.
Playing in the NFL.
They're not good football players.
Yeah,
there's something to be said for being a good football player. Like you're diminishing what it takes to be a good route runner and get open in the NFL. Like you can have all the height, weight, measurables all you want to, but are you able to read coverages on the run to get yourself open, to sit down in the zone, to be able to high point the ball with somebody, grabbing you, and then take the hit and get up and then do it again? Yes. Like that would give them their best opportunity to make it as like a receiver or maybe a tight end or something like that. But listen, man, I just feel like they need to have more respect for what it takes to be an NFL player and to be a 1%er and to be the best of what you do. The mental as far as mentality and the mental as far as the playbook and all this type of stuff that it takes and the nuances in every single thing that you do. And you know what? Those guys are 1%ers in their field.